You may have heard this said or even said it yourself, "I'm dying of thirst." This statement is not far from the truth. Liquid life, a substance better known as water, is the second most essential element for our existence. As you've learned, air being the number one need of the body, water stands as the second most important vital need for living. Water is of major importance to all living things. Up to 60% of the human body is water. The brain is composed of 75% water, and the lungs are nearly 90% water. Lean muscle tissue contains about 75% water by weight, as is the brain. Body fat contains 10% water, and bone has 22% water. About 83% of even our blood is made of water. Water is important to the mechanics of the human body. The body cannot simply work without it, just as a car cannot run without gas and oil. In fact, all of the cell and organ functions made up in our entire anatomy and physiology depend on water for their functioning. If water is so important to us, let's talk about some of the things that water does for us. Water regulates body temperature. It moistens tissues, such as those in the nose, mouth, eyes. Water regulates body temperature. It moistens tissues, such as those in the mouth, eyes, and nose. It lubricates joints, protects organs and tissues, and lessens the burdens on the kidney and the liver by flushing out our waste products. It also helps to prevent constipation. It helps to dissolve minerals and other nutrients to make them usable to our body. In addition, it carries nutrients and oxygen to our cells. Remember, all of the major systems in our body depend on water for them to function properly. Every day, you're losing water through your breath, perspiration, urine, and bowel movements. Now, I imagine water being like a beautiful river that flows throughout our entire body, a river that carries cells that are very specific in function. Cells like gondolas carrying oxygen, nutrients, building materials for health and for life. 2, cells carrying away unused materials and waste products. I imagine the activities taking place in the body as beautiful as riding a gondola on the canals of Venice, Italy, and how I get to choose what travels in and out of those lovely little canals. As you can see, we need water for the body to actually function properly, but it's up to us to replenish the water by consuming beverages and foods that contain water. Now, there was a time that we didn't have to be so concerned with water. Nowadays, you see a plethora of commercials advertising bottled water, flavored water, mineral water, spring water, and the like, as well as formulas and protocols for how much water we should drink. Follow the water, water, water. Why? Today, we're exposed to higher amounts of processed, refined foods that need preservatives to give them adequate shelf life. These preservatives cause us to retain water. Now, when I imagine those preservatives floating through the canals of my lovely little Venice, I imagine the gondolas carrying usable materials, vitamins, oxygen, and nutrients throughout our body, also carrying away those waste products that are of no use to us. Moreover, how foods with preservatives, namely salt, cause our bodies to retain water. It's like having a bunch of those gondolas loaded down with sodium moving very slowly through the canals, clogging up the canals, not enabling them to do their job properly. In addition, those gondolas are overloaded with waste materials that may eventually cause the waste to leak into our body, bringing about illness, sickness, and even disease. 2, many people exercise excessively in order to try to maintain health. Many think that exercise is the key to health, but as you're discovering, I Am Woman has yet to even mention exercise. We now know that there are 2 major keys to health, one being air and second being water. Now, exercise does allow us to help the body to detoxify through our sweat, thus the loss of water. Now, that water needs to be replenished, but by what source of water and how much? When drinking water, we want to go back to our simple equation, the nutrients minus toxins equals health. The purest form of water would be considered pure H2O. Water without contaminants like toxic bacteria and chemicals. In our potable drinking water today, it's almost impossible to avoid toxins. As well as a plethora of different water resources available to us, are there an equal amount of filtration systems to remove those little critters that keep us away from our ultimate health. If contaminants being the toxin part of our health equation, we can naturally assume that water itself is the nutrient part of the equation, equaling health. So let's take a look at a water rule that we can use to ensure adequate water intake. You may need to modify your total water intake depending on how active you are, the climate that you live in, your health status, and if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. The formula, 8 glasses of water a day, works great for some people, but not for all of us. This water rule can be applied specifically to your body. Now let me share with you the water rule. You're going to simply take your weight in pounds and divide it by 2, which will equal how many ounces of water you need to drink each day. For example, take a 120-pound woman, divide her weight by 2, and you have 60 ounces of water a day. Keep in mind that this is total water intake, and there are many foods that are high in water concentration. To be safe, you should drink about 80% of this in pure water. So, using the example of our woman again, 80% of 60 ounces is 48 ounces, or 6 8-ounce glasses of water each day. Remember, there are a variety of factors that influence your water needs. Apart from the water rule, if you drink enough fluid so that you rarely feel thirsty and produce somewhere around 6 cups or more of colorless, slightly yellow urine a day, your fluid intake is probably adequate. So let's talk about a few ways that we can replenish the water that we are losing with the 7 how-tos of water. Number 1, drink on average 6 8-ounce glasses of water a day. Remember, follow the water rule. Number 2, drink fresh vegetable and fruit juices. Number 3, eat fresh vegetables and fruit every day. Number 4, replace your water that you've lost through exercise and natural excretion. Number 5, use a good water purification system and avoid water that has contaminants. Number 6, avoid too much processed foods, especially those foods with preservatives. And number 7, avoid sodas, coffee, tea, and other liquids that are not primarily pure water.